April 6, 4:51 p.m. Big building, empty lot. Sean, he was my dad? It can't have been easy learning the truth about his father's identity so unexpectedly. And too late to ever get to know him. You know how hard I tried to find him? Sean, I get it. He was the president. He had a lot more of a thing about than just me. But he was right there in front of me. Right there on the set. So why? Why didn't he just say something? Why didn't he tell me who he was? I'm sorry, Sean. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mom. It's mine. If I hadn't broken my promise to you, that fire would have never happened and he wouldn't have. I've ruined everything. Everything. It's all my fault. I even ruined your flowers. Sean! Please, you mustn't blame yourself. Just try to be here with me. Just for a little while. The bond between parent and child, as symbolized by the lion lily. I'm no expert, but it's native to Zhenfa, so I know that much at least. Sadly, we don't have the luxury of dwelling on such things just now. I know it might seem insensitive, Agent Lang, but sentimentality won't help us here. We need to focus on what we can do about the case before us. You're right. I believe we've learned all we need to about what happened back then for now. How did it all line up with your father's theories about the case? I wouldn't know. He took those to the grave with him. He never shared his thoughts with anybody. There's no way of knowing now what he figured out. What about your own thoughts? Are you feeling any more positive in light of what we learned from Kay's reconstruction? Are we any closer to learning what really happened 12 years ago? You know, I think we might be. My father's footsteps are starting to become clear. Now all we need to do is follow them. All the way to the truth. Argument. The real story of the SS5 incident. The president went to the orphanage that night. That much we know for sure. The Taurosaurus toy proves it. He must have gone there to meet with Simon Fenn. Except he was kidnapped, and Aldown happened to see it. If Aldown hadn't been there, there wouldn't have been a murder, just a kidnapping. Instead, they had to move his body to the planners and stage that photo to throw everybody off the scent. So that's our current theory, is it? But there's something I still don't understand. There is? This. Why risk staging the picture? They would have had to force the president to play along. What if he hadn't? It's a good question, and we may be closer to discovering the answer than we think. We'll just have to get there one deduction at a time. Yeah, I guess we will. Alright, to sway. Lang seems to be getting along with this just fine. The president went to the orphanage that night, that much we know for sure. The Taurosaurus toy proves it. He must have gone there to meet with Simon Fenn. Except he was kidnapped, and Aldown happened to see it. If Aldown hadn't been there, there wouldn't have been a murder, just a kidnapping. Then how do you explain this mysterious bloodstain? And my voice ain't right for whatever reason. You're saying there would have been no murder if Mr. Aldown hadn't witnessed the kidnapping? But is that really the case? Why wouldn't it be? Their main aim was to abduct the president, right? So if there hadn't been a witness present, there wouldn't have needed to murder anybody. And yet it remains possible that Mr. Aldown wasn't the only person killed that night. There was a large pool of blood between the planters, but Mr. Aldown was murdered over by the snowman. It can't have belonged to him. What if all that blood by the planters belonged to somebody else? Come on, Mr. Prosecutor. You do realize what you're saying, don't you? I do. It's hard to believe. I'll be the first to admit it. But it's what the evidence suggests. Not just one person was killed here 12 years ago, but two. You're saying they covered up a whole separate murder? But whose? Who else was killed that night? Whoever covered up this other homicide did so very skillfully indeed. They even seem to have been able to avoid it being mentioned in the files. But they didn't quite get rid of everything. We have a piece of evidence from 12 years ago that they never managed to erase. This clearly shows that something else happened that night. The child's drawing.
Take that!
Excelsius Winner tried to shroud the existence of the other murder in darkness, but there was one piece of evidence he wasn't able to suppress, thanks to the efforts of your father, Agent Lang. My father? Cast your mind back, if you will. Something else was hidden along with all the other evidence from the crime scene. The existence of the child who set the fire in front of the orphanage. But why would Chairman Winner wish to erase him from the record? Because he saw something he should not have. That's why. He did? What was it? It's right here in this picture. The picture my father kept. I think we can all agree that's the president on the right-hand side. And that's the Torosaurus toy in his hand. But who's that standing across from him? The one person that is most obvious. Bodhidharma Kanis.
Take that!
Eastern robes and a black dog. That can only be Bodhidharma Kanis. What? The creepy assassin guy? And what would a hired killer be doing in the presence of a president? I can think of only one thing. That's right, it wasn't a kidnapping that occurred here 12 years ago. It was an assassination! Yeah! And Warden Laguarde and Chairman Winner were... Yes, I think they were complicit. More than complicit, in fact. One provided the venue for the killing, and the other suppressed the testimony of the child who witnessed it. Mr. Aldown was murdered because what he witnessed was actually an assassination, and not the kidnapping he thought it to be at all. Do you think I'm an idiot? How could the president have died 12 years ago? We only found his body this morning. He was alive and well until just recently. Yeah, we even met him. Indeed. So we have a president killed 12 years ago, and a president killed in the last 48 hours. Two presidents, in other words. Right, which is completely impossible. Or is it? I think it's entirely possible for there to be two presidents. In fact, that would explain a lot. But regardless of what happened, I still respected him. Shangfa may not be a big country, but he held that place together. The president Agent Lang spoke of was a noble and capable leader. No, The presidential mask has well and truly slipped. Entirely unlike the man we met. It really did seem as if they were two completely different people. But how could one country have two presidents? What could explain a situation like that? This is how it was possible for there to be two presidents. A body double. One of the two was a body double. Tell me that doesn't make sense. A body double? President Wang was a man of great power and influence in Shangfa, a figure on the world stage. There must have been countless attempts on his life over the years, such as the one at Gourd Lake only a few days ago. It's true, there were more than a few assassination attempts, but that doesn't mean I'm about to accept that there was more than one president. Not without proof. Do we have any proof that there was more than one president? That's right, the SS5 incident case file.
Take that!
I don't think he's noticed the contradiction staring him in the face. Or is he just unable to accept it? What's the matter, Mr. Prosecutor? You're pretty quiet all of a sudden. In Amelie Fenn's recording, she asked the president to be at the orphanage at midnight. But it shouldn't have been possible for him to be there at that time. Huh? How come? Because he was supposedly still at the embassy. With your father, Agent Lang. So he had noticed. The only way he could have been in two places at once is if there were two of him. Oh! So the real president, that was the one who died 12 years ago? I think it might have been. But why? And who? Who would have hired Kanis to murder the president? In order to figure that out, we'll need to look again at the piece of evidence we recently discovered was a fake. The fake evidence. What was it again? Simple. Mr. Aldown's photograph.
Take that!
The picture taken with Mr. Aldown's camera was staged sometime after his murder, and Mr. Aldown was murdered because he witnessed the president's assassination. In other words, the photograph too must have been taken after the real president's death. So who is the president in the staged photograph? The body double? Nothing else makes sense. I believe the president's double had him killed so that he could take his place permanently. And Excelsius Winner and Fifi Laguarde helped him do it. Wait, you don't even have a body to support your theory! Are you telling me it magically disappeared?
Objection!
No. In fact, we know exactly where it wound up. The president's body was here the whole time. That's simple. The monster footprints.
Take that!
Chairman Winner dug something up last night. Something he couldn't trust anybody else to retrieve. We thought it might have been the ransom money, but it was actually something even more important. Wait, you mean? That's right, the real president's body. I think it's highly likely anyway. What? The body may have decomposed in the intervening years, but the bones would surely have remained. Mr. Powers informed us that construction is due to start here sometime soon. Everything had to be wrapped up before then. The shooting of the movie, and the recovery of the president's remains. Yeah, I guess once they started digging the place up, they would have found them pretty quick, huh? Agent Lang, we need to have the so-called monster footprints analyzed again. Yeah, I guess we do. If there was a body under one of them, there should be trace evidence to confirm it. Hey, get me somebody from forensics! Sir, presenting the findings of our analysis, sir. Traces of human remains were found in the dirt, along with other signs of a body having been buried. So it really was him? Bones were also recovered from the home of Excelsius Winner. The physique looks to be about right, and dental and medical records are a match. It's him, no doubt about it. So as suspected, the real President Wang was killed 12 years ago, and the SS5 kidnapping was in fact a homicide. Wow, so it really was a murder, huh? This case has taken so many twists and turns, I'm starting to lose track. Yes, perhaps we should summarize our findings just to confirm that we understand everything correctly. Good idea. Let's go over everything from the point where the president arrived at the orphanage. 12 years ago, the real President Wang visited the orphanage. His aim? To meet his infant son. The footprints we originally assumed to be those of Mr. Aldown seem likely to have actually been made by the president upon his arrival. But instead of being greeted by his child, he was met by the assassin, Bodhidharma Kanis. That's so sad. He was hoping to see his baby for the first time, only to... Indeed. But at least with Mr. Kanis, we can be sure that the job was swiftly and effectively completed. But then after the assassination, another tragedy occurred. Mr. Aldown's murder. Yes, it seems he witnessed a key moment in the evening's proceedings. The moment when our culprits, the so-called kidnappers, took the president's body around to the side of the building, that was the sight that sealed his fate. We've now established that he was standing by the orphanage gates at the time. Far enough away that he believed what he was seeing was the president's abduction. At which point... Oh, the body double would come to meet up with his co-conspirators. Walked right up behind Mr. Aldown. Leading to our unfortunate eyewitness being murdered by the man who was plotting to replace the president. So was it the body double who moved Mr. Aldown's body too? Yes, I think it probably was. But none of the footprints could have been his, could they? Actually, I think they could. In fact, we have a piece of evidence that proves how that particular trick was achieved. What shows how the body double managed to move the body without leaving any footprints? The victim's shoes.
Take that!
What if the president's double moved Mr. Aldown's body like this? After killing Mr. Aldown, he could have carried him to the other side of the entrance. Given that his job was to look just like the president, he would have been wearing the same shoes, meaning that if he stepped exactly in the footprints left by the real president. Of course! His would have been the same shape and size. It would have looked like a single set of footprints. So that's how it all went down. I'm so glad we finally figured it out. Wait, but there's one thing I still don't get. There is? What? Why did they need to pretend there was a kidnapping? Mr. Aldown had seen the president at the orphanage and left a message on Miss Ringer's phone describing what he thought he saw. It would have been impossible for the conspirators to erase that message, so they had to make it look as if the events described in the message were true, by staging a kidnapping like the one he thought he saw. Exactly. I think the two people in the photograph are likely to be the body double and Fifi Laguarde. She's the one in the trench coat? How can you be so sure of that? The two of them would have had to walk out beyond the orphanage gates to stage the photo. The body double could have put his feet in the real president's prints as he did before. Oh, so the other set of footprints were hers. The ones we originally thought belonged to the killer, yes. They were about a size 9, too small for Chairman Winner in other words. Which means the kidnapper must have been played by Warren Laguarde. And that explains how a so-called kidnapping was actually a presidential assassination. It does. Which means my father must have, what? Noticed. There's no way he wouldn't have suspected a murder. Especially not with the kid's picture as proof. But the picture was never officially put into evidence, correct? No, he appears to have kept hold of it after taking the witness statement of the child who drew it. Yeah, because he knew. He knew President Wang was dead. And he knew what would happen if that news ever got out. Zhang Fa would have been plunged into chaos, no doubt. So he kept it a secret, and that secret died with him. Even though it meant taking the blame for the kidnapping and our family name being ruined. So your father knew the truth about what happened 12 years ago, but he chose to hide it. Well, it's finally coming to light at last. Is it indeed intriguing? Huh? What? Who's there? That sound, is that a bell? Bodhidharma Kanis! What the heck are you doing here? We're the law. You think you can just show up in front of us like it ain't a problem? Forgive me, but I couldn't help overhearing the fascinating conversation you were having. The opportunity to gloat over your past crimes was just too good to miss, I expect. You killed President Wang! I did, but it's not something I'm inclined to gloat over. I was more interested in something else you mentioned. Or someone else, should I say. Someone you're looking for, I suppose? Exactly. That's why I took a little sojourn from the penitentiary to find a certain young pup. A young pup in a rather eye-catching red raincoat. What? Wait, you know who they are? In a matter of speaking. What did you call them again? A secret mastermind? It's your friend in the red raincoat, of course. Red raincoat? The prosecutor looks a little surprised, doesn't he, Helmut? Yes, he does. The young pup I mentioned, he saved my life, 12 long years ago. Testimony, my unexpected savior. As you have surmised, it was I who killed President Wang. But that meant that I, too, became an inconvenience in need of removal. The imposter president, Winner, Laguarde, all three were keen to guarantee my silence. And if I hadn't met my friend, the young pup again, they might even have succeeded. I wonder what he's doing now. So it was the president's body double who hired you? I remember his words almost as if it were yesterday.
You know how many times I've nearly been killed? Not once, not twice, a bunch of times. Why do I have to take all the risks? Why am I the one they always put in danger? When I'm out there being him, people treat me like I was him. They worship me. So what's the difference? Who's to say I couldn't be just as good as him?
There was a difference, of course, even if he did look and sound exactly like him. Just because it walks and talks like a president, that doesn't make it a president, does it, boy? No. So he got his wish and became the boss, but couldn't quite fill his predecessor's shoes. Rook's not around. That means I'm number one. I wonder if you have what it takes to step into such capable shoes. You. Of course I do. I'm the leader now. Me! Seems the king and his knight were much the same. The president's double knew that his employer had a weakness, a young woman named Emily. But in order to find her, he needed to enlist the help of locals. Locals such as Chairman Winner. Once Miss Fenn had been located, they simply needed to find the right time to lay their trap.
The meeting she arranged so the president could meet his son. That would have been the perfect opportunity.
Indeed. And with the head of the orphanage brought into their fold, the little conspiracy was complete. Warden Laguarde. Now, quid pro quo. Where might I find the pup? What makes you think the boy who helped you and our mysterious string puller are one and the same? He set a little fire that night, out there in the yard of the orphanage.
Oh, yeah, we saw that. It was some kind of a prank, right?
A prank? It was nothing of the sort, my dear. No, as I understand it, he had taken refuge in the igloo by the entrance. From there, he happened to see Winner and Laguarde carrying away a dead body. He also overheard them hatching a certain sordid little plot. A plot to remove me, the only other person who knew what had really happened, from the picture. Thankfully, he was kind enough to come and inform me. I was waiting inside the building, you see. He also happened to mention later on that he was wearing his favorite red raincoat. In any case, he escorted me from the premises. And, being a very considerate boy, thought to erase both our footprints from the scene of the crime. It seems he had a little kerosene set aside in the igloo for just such an occasion. So he spread it liberally about the place and set himself a little fire.
No way! So that's what the fire was for?
It must have been ever so beautiful. Winner and Laguarde were positively enchanted. And while they were distracted by the show, he took the opportunity to usher me out of a side entrance. You never answered my question. You really think he's the one behind all this? I do indeed. Don't I, Helmut? Yes, I do.
Well, let's do this then.
As you have surmised, it was I who killed President Wang. You were pretty forthcoming with that particular admission. If I'm honest, Mr. Edgeworth, I'm tired of all the killing. But back then, I felt that death was my path. I embraced it and strove to learn what it had to teach. I have made my peace with that, and I am happy to admit it, aren't I, boy? Yes, I am.
I'm not sure what he's talking about, but I definitely don't like the sound of it.
Basically, he thought nothing of murdering the president. And not only is he an assassin, he's now a prison escapee, not someone to be trifled with. But we can't afford for him not to talk. I'll need to tread as carefully as I can. Very well, you killed the president, and you're happy to admit it? Oh, very much so. I wouldn't want you thinking that I drew my blade and missed. but that meant that I too became an inconvenience in need of removal. You, a target? But you're an assassin!
Sometimes the hunter must become the hunted. Sometimes the living must become the dead.
Please, Kay, don't feel the need to add a proverb of your own. Impermanence is inherent to the way of the assassin. Life-takers' lives are taken, so it goes.
Wait, does that mean the people you're sent to kill sometimes try to kill you back? Or...
It happens, occasionally, but it is not what happened this time. The imposter president, Winner, Laguarde, all three were keen to guarantee my silence. But Mr. Kanis, you're a professional killer, and a famously skilled one at that. Surely escaping even 3 attackers would have been little more than a minor inconvenience. You overestimate me, Mr. Edgeworth. You seem to forget that without Helmet here, I couldn't even walk down the street. Against 3 assailants, I wouldn't have lasted more than a few moments. I see. So even the most proficient assassins are ill-equipped to face a full frontal assault. We're not usually fond of such situations, shall we say. I certainly wouldn't have liked my chances. And if I hadn't met my friend the young pup again, they might even have succeeded. Again? So the 2 of you had met before? Yes, on a cold and lonely Christmas Eve 18 years back. That long ago. But on that occasion, it was I who saved his life. It was snowing, more than it had in years, and cold enough that death by freezing was a real possibility. I had taken Helmet out for a little walk. He noticed something and bounded off through the snow. When I caught up to him, he was sniffing at a car. The doors had frozen shut. It took all the strength I had, but eventually I managed to open one. And inside I found 2 young boys, shivering and semi-conscious. 2? Yes. And had I found them even an hour later, the poor wretches would have never have made it. I took them both to a nearby orphanage. Is it me, or is there something significant about what he just told us? Yes. What is it about Kanis' statement that's especially noteworthy? The date. This was on Christmas Eve 18 years ago. You're certain of that? I am. Holy smokes! We have something that shows why that date is so significant. Which piece of evidence relates to the date on which Mr. Kanis found the children? The IS-7 case file! That was the same day on which a certain incident occurred. The murder of a well-known sculptor. No way! An incident in the aftermath of which 2 children went missing. The son of the victim, Artie Frost, and the son of the murderer, Carmelo Gusto. Yeah, now that you mention it, the little guys did go AWOL, huh? Intriguing. The son of a murderer and the son of his victim. I suppose that would make sense. It would? One of the boys was bound hand and foot, you see.
That must have been part of Mr. Frost's plan to stop Mr. Gusto's son from getting to the competition.
Indeed, because without his son to taste his creations, Mr. Gusto would have had no chance of winning. So that was what was behind it all. Sadly, neither of the boys were able to remember any such details. They weren't? No. When we met each other again on that night 12 years ago, the young pup explained it to me. It seems that they really were on the brink of death when I found them. And the shock of the experience caused them both to lose their memories. They weren't even able to remember their names.
Wow, so they wouldn't have known they were Mr. Frost and Mr. Gusto's kids?
If what he's telling us is true, that would seem likely, yes. Which means we still don't have enough to tell us who our mastermind might be. Mr. Kanis, would you mind telling us what happened next? By all means. Testimony, the pup and I. The pup and I remained in contact even after I was sent to prison. But then I stopped hearing from him. I couldn't help but worry. And then people from 12 years ago started cropping up all over the place. It rather piqued my curiosity, so I thought I'd temporarily regain my freedom and look into things. People from 12 years ago? You mean Laguarde, Winner, and the President, I assume.
Well, Warden Laguarde was in charge of the prison where he was an inmate this whole time, right?
I fear I wasn't as kind to her as I could have been. But then she did try to have me killed. You already know why, of course. Because you murdered President Wang, but they needed the world to believe he was still alive. If somebody had exposed the president as a fake, it would have been bad for Laguarde and Chairman Winner, too. Exactly. And not only that, I happened to overhear something else intriguing that night.
I'll be at the orphanage on the evening of the 9th. I'll be waiting in the front yard. I thought you could meet him if you like, even if it's only just this once. I know you're a very busy man, but anyway, that's what we'll be. Goodbye.
Who are you? Sorry, but I'm waiting for somebody. I know you are, President Wang. I couldn't help overhearing the news. Congratulations. But please don't worry about your son. I only kill those I am employed to kill, which in this case means you. No. Wait, this is my first chance to meet him, and it might be my only chance. Please, give me just a few minutes longer. I thought he was going to beg for his life, but no. An interesting character. I told him I was not aware that he had a child. No, he said, and shook his head. Neither was I. The world will know that I have one now. I mean to make sure of it. I even prepared something in case the worst comes to the worst. And the son in question? It was the young gentleman with the horns here, correct?
Horns? You can see them?
I don't need to, my dear. I've been listening very carefully, you see. And for longer than you may realize. So the president meant to tell the world about Sean and prepared something in case of the worst. But it's not enough simply to have Kanis' word on the matter. Of course, we have something that proves what he's telling us the president said is true. The will. A will everybody knew about. He entrusted it to my family to show his belief in us after all. The name in the recording, the preparations he had made, and his will. With those 3 pieces of information, I was able to convince Warden Laguarde to do anything I asked. With the information at his disposal, he could have exposed the truth about the body double at any time, and Sean's true identity with it. President Wang was more agile than I anticipated. He blocked my first knife thrust with something soft. By the time the piece I'd broken off hit the snow, my next strike had hit its mark. So it was Kanis who torn the horn off of the Taurosaurus doll. I was the only one present to hear his final words. The only one who knew the truth about his son. Well, me and that poor pup. This case just keeps on getting freakier. The pup and I remain in contact even after I was sent to prison. So you were able to continue communicating with him from prison? I was, via post office box.
What's that?
It's a means of exchanging mail without revealing one's own address. I never knew where he was, and I wasn't able to slip out and track him down. I was being kept under rather strict supervision, you see. By Warden Laguarde, no doubt. What were the two of you even communicating about? You were playing correspondence chess, of course. That and griping about our respective lots in life.
Correspondence chess? But didn't you used to play that with...
As unlikely as it may seem, Mr. Kanis' chess opponent was...
Mr. Knight? Yeah, it was Mr. Knight.
We found the diagram of the game in his cell, too. So does that mean Knight had something to do with all that IS-7 business? Wait, could that be it? Do we have any evidence that might connect Knight to the IS-7 incident? We do. Knight's possessions.
Take that!
This is everything Knight left behind. Could there be a clue in here somewhere? A ring and a chess set. Which one should we choose? The ring. The ring.
What about it, Mr. Edgeworth?
Mr. Fender, take a closer look at it if you would. That design. That's Paul Halik's trademark. Indeed, it looks like somebody turned the stamp he used to sign his work with into a ring. But why would Knight have been carrying it? And why was it not with the rest of the evidence from the IS-7 incident? They tried to release Frost's personal effects to his next of kin after the case wound down. But if I remember rightly, old Frosty Boy didn't have any family aside from his kid. And the kid was missing, so they never got to hand it back to him. Not till later, anyhow. I heard on the grapevine that they found him in the end and gave him the goods. Including the seal, it would seem, which he turned into a ring and wore until his own death.
So we're saying Mr. Knight was Mr. Frost's son?
The cops don't mess around with stuff like that. They would have made sure before handing it over.
And we were looking for somebody connected to the IS-7 incident who played correspondence chess, right?
Wait, so our secret string puller is Bronco Knight?
Knight is dead. How could he possibly be involved in our current case?
Far out. So our only candidate for genius mastermind is a guy who already kicked the bucket?
That's impossible. How can a dead guy be behind all this?
It is a little perplexing, but then, who else could it be? But then I stopped hearing from him. I couldn't help but worry. And then people from 12 years ago started cropping up all over the place. It rather piqued my curiosity, so I thought I'd temporarily regain my freedom and look into things. I did so used to enjoy tapping out my little letters in Braille.
Objection!
This thing. You said that you wrote all of your letters in Braille. Is that correct? I don't mean to be rude, Mr. Prosecutor, but you do know about my condition, don't you? That's odd, because the chess diagram we found in Knight's cell didn't contain any Braille at all. Really? But surely, that's impossible. How so exactly?
Maybe someone typed Mr. Canis' letters out on purpose?
Meaning there may have been some sort of intermediary between the two of them?
So then...
Mr. Canis said he wrote his letters in Braille, and yet, the letters received by Mr. Knight contain no Braille at all. This suggests that there must be a third party who typed Mr. Canis' letters out. Guess it could have worked the same way on the flip side too, right? Whoever it was could have taken Knight's letters and turned them back into Braille. They could indeed. I think you and Mr. Knight were both communicating with this person, Mr. Canis. Mr. Canis, the answers you received. They were written in Braille too, yes. So some mysterious middle person really was retyping the Bronxter's missives? And that same person might well be our secret string puller. Wait, you're trying to say there's another hidden mastermind behind this whole thing? So who's this new one? Bronco Knight, son of Artie Frost, is already dead. But what if the other child from the incident 18 years ago was actually who we've been looking for? Carmelo Gusto's son. But who is he? And where is he? If Knight was Frost's son, Gusto's son would have to be... I've known him since we were kids, when both of us were all alone. He doesn't have any family, you see. Just like me.
Him? But surely not!
What's the matter, Mr. Edgeworth? You're white as a sheet.
Of course. It all makes sense. I know exactly who our so-called mastermind is.
What? Who? You have to tell us.
I can hardly believe it, but it's somebody we know rather well. The person we've been looking for is the one I never expected. You! It has to be the person behind all this. The person who forced Chairman Winner's hand by sending the letter to Rosie Ringer. The person who kidnapped Sean and bugged Kay and myself. The person who did the strangest thing of all. Who drugged Kay and carried her up to the roof of the big building. It was the monster.
What? Did you really just say what I thought you did?
Yes, the monster. That was the key to unmasking our mastermind. Oh, I almost forgot. We're, doing a new show soon. I'd love it if you could come, Mr. Edgeworth. I'll be joining Regina on stage for this one.
That's right. The Very Big Circus is the biggest, most fabulous event in town. You'll have oodles of fun.
Miss Lloyd, could I ask a favor?
Who? Little old me? What kind of favor?
You told us you recorded the sound of Taurosaurus breathing fire. Proof? What kind of proof? Did you capture something on your tape recorder, perhaps?
Oh, you're good, Ruffles. Sharper than a gosh dang tack. I captured the sound of the big old beastie breathing fire is what I captured. Sure did. Like I said, I didn't precisely see the guy, but boy did I hear him.
Can we listen to the tape?
You surely can. Let's see now.
That's it. That sound. It must be what I think it is.
My theory has to be correct. The truth about the monster, the identity of the person behind all this, it's all falling into place. Miss Hart, you saw a giant eye at the window of the storeroom, did you not?
Yep, snap me a picture of it too, even if you can't rightly see it so well.
We can't see it right now, but... Detective Gumshoe.
Yes, sir.
Your image analyzer, can we borrow it again?
Sure, but what do you want to look at, sir?
This photograph right here.
Gotcha, I'm on it.
The clue we're looking for must be here. We just have to find it.
Hello? What's this?
That's...
See? I done told y'all. Taurosaurus is his own dang self.
Yes, there it is at last. The monster commanded by the architect of this whole scheme.
Monster! You're finally ready to admit it? That he's dang well real? The big bad bull himself?
No, because that isn't Taurosaurus at all. It's the eye of a different giant beast entirely. Take a look at this if you would.
The Very Big Circus flyer? Oh, wait, look!
You see it, the enormous lion balloon. That's the real monster. And the sound Miss Lloyd thought was the creature breathing fire.
Hold it! Ah, come on! You're really gonna bring me crashing down to Earth like that?
That's how balloons fly, huh? They burn gas to make hot air?
They do, and our culprit was able to use that balloon to carry Kay up to the roof of the big building without ever going near the elevator.
So this culprit, they've got something to do with the circus?
Circus worker, friend of the Bronxster, son of Gusto.
Whoa, you're not serious.
You forgot to mention trainee animal tamer. It's hard to believe.
It was you.
But he's the one who's been pulling the strings this whole time. That's right, Simeon Saint is the one behind all this.
Simeon? But everything? Really? I don't believe you. We trusted him, and he trusted us. You can't tell me that was all lies. That would be too horrible.
I'm sorry, Kay. Who is that?
Hey, where do you think you're going, old man?
Nothing escapes you, does it, young pup? My congratulations, Mr. Edgeworth. But now that I know the truth, my business here is done.
What? No, Mr. Kanis, wait! Damn it! He disappeared!
Are you okay, Mr. Edgeworth?
Don't worry, I'm fine, but...
Damn you!
Are you alright, Sean?
He killed my dad. He did, right?
There's no easy way to say it, but... Sorry, Sean. It would appear that he did.
He won't get away with it. I'll make him pay. Somehow. Some way. No, Sean. You mustn't say such things. I'm sorry, Mr. Edgeworth. You'll have to forgive us both.
I just put the call out, sir. All units are on the lookout for Mr. Kanis.
I don't mean to hurry everybody, but we better be on our way too. Well, Mr. Prosecutor, where do you think we'll find our mastermind?
I suppose you're right. We should go after the mastermind right now. He said he had to practice for the show, which I guess means he'll be at the circus. But before we leave, there's something I'd like to ask of you, Agent Lang.
There is? What?
Once a beast has been sighted, the next step is to plan its capture. When we arrive, there's something we'll need to try and find as a matter of priority. And Detective, I'd like you to look into something that's been bothering me about Sean's kidnapping.
Yes, sir.
I want to help too, Mr. Edgeworth. Good. There's somebody I'd like you to try and contact. If Saint really is our mastermind, we're going to need this person's help. Between our many encounters, I never suspected a thing, even though he was right there in front of me. I messed up. There's no other way of putting it, but I'm going to put things right once and for all. I agree. And this is where the end comes. After so long, we're finally going to reach the end. That is it for this part of Ace Attorney Investigations 2 Prosecutor's Gambit. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell. I will see you for when this case and this playthrough finally ends. This is MegamanNG signing off. Peace out. Product provided by Capcom.